I read an interesting story in the newspaper last week. It said that researchers at University College London had measured the brains of people who are bilingual, that is, people who speak two languages well, and also the brains of people who spoke only one language. They found that the part of the brain which processes information is better developed in people who are bilingual than in people who are monolingual. This effect is particularly strong in people who learnt a second language as a young child of less than 5 years old. So, quite simply, learning a second language makes your brain work better. And if you learn another language when you are very young, your brain will be very wonderful indeed. If you are listening to this podcast, you are, I guess, learning a language which is not your own. So you must all have brains which work very well. The report in the newspaper is good news for you. Congratulations. But it is bad news for us English because we are really bad at learning foreign languages. Only the Americans are as bad as we are. So British brains and American brains are perhaps not as good as the brains of people in a country like Switzerland, where it is normal for people to speak 2 or even 3 languages to a high standard. In Britain, only about 1 adult in 10 can communicate at all in a language other than English. In fact, 1 in 10 may be too optimistic. A few years ago, a survey by a recruitment agency found that only 5% of British people could count to 20 in another language. What? How difficult is it to learn to count to 20 in German or French or Italian? British people who go to live in Spain or France are notorious for failing to learn Spanish or French, even after they have lived in the country for many years. You probably know already that English children move from primary school to secondary school at the age of 11. At secondary school, they start learning a foreign language, normally French. A year or 2 later, some children will start a second foreign language. At one time, the second foreign language was normally German, but this is not the case today. German language teaching has declined sharply in Britain. Spanish has taken its place. I do not know why Spanish has become so much more popular than German. Perhaps it is because so many English people go to Spain for their holidays. In addition, in big cities where there is a large immigrant population, it is common for secondary schools to offer courses in South Asian languages like Punjabi or Urdu. But of course, most of the children who take these courses speak the language at home already. The courses give them a better knowledge and understanding of their own language, which is a good and important thing to do. But it does not teach them a new language. When they are 14, children in England have to choose which subjects they will study for their General Certificate of Secondary Education, or GCSE, exams, which they take when they are 16. The government decided a few years ago that it would no longer be compulsory for children to include a foreign language in the subjects they chose. The result has been that the number of children who study a language after the age of 14 has fallen dramatically. The number of children taking the GCSE French exam, for example, has fallen by 50% since 2001. We see the same pattern when we look at British universities. The total number of students at university in Britain has risen, but the number of students taking degree courses in foreign languages has fallen. There have been particularly big declines in the numbers studying French and German. This is not a good situation. Everyone, Politicians, school teachers, academics agree about this. If young people do not study a foreign language, probably they will not understand much about other countries or other cultures. Most British teenagers, however, do not think that learning a foreign language is interesting or important. They think that they will never need to speak a foreign language, and that all foreigners speak English anyway. Foreign languages have a low status with young people. Our government thinks that part of the answer is to start language learning at a younger age. It wants primary schools to start teaching a foreign language. However, at the same time, it has cut funding for adult education classes in foreign languages. The problem is complicated and deep-seated. How do you think that we can interest more young people in England in learning languages? Goodbye.